What's up, everyone? Mr. Fired Up Wealth here. Today I want to discuss Boeing. Is Boeing a buy right here? There's no question the stock has been on a tear over the past several years, and the future, at least long term, seems bright. However, recent turmoil has the stock churning and the market fearful, and for good reason. But is Boeing, stock ticker BA, a good investment? Is Boeing stock a buy right now? This is what you need to know. Boeing investors have had a ton to worry about lately, from the China trade war to 737 MAX crashes. The 737 MAX has been grounded worldwide after a total of 346 people lost their lives in two separate crashes involving the Boeing planes in the past year. Last October 2018, 189 passengers and crew on a 737 MAX operated by Lion Air were killed when the aircraft crashed shortly after takeoff from Jakarta, Indonesia. In March this year, 2019, 157 additional people died when an Ethiopian Airlines plane crashed after takeoff from ADD Airport. The crashes were triggered by fault sensor software that forced down the nose of the plane into a dive, which the pilots could not prevent. The company continues to extend the timelines for when the aircraft will return to service. To make things worse, Boeing is also delaying development of its new long-range 77X twin-aisle jet aircraft, likely because it needs to focus on returning the 737 MAX jet back to service. The news created some volatility, and the stock dropped $12 or 3.4% and has bounced around in the low to mid 300s. Since the tragic March crash of the Ethiopian Airlines flight, Boeing stock has plunged around 25%, far worse than the Dow over the same time span. Standard & Poor's, Moody's, and Fitch all have warned they could also lower their credit ratings on Boeing stock, citing the 737 MAX grounding. Trouble also remains in other areas, as the Securities and Exchange Commission is reportedly investigating Boeing's financial disclosures relating to the jet's grounding. The Justice Department, FBI, and the Transportation Department Inspector General's office also have been looking to see if they provided misleading information about the Boeing 737 MAX to regulators and customers. And now the DOJ has subpoenaed records at a North Charleston, South Carolina factory where the Boeing 787 Dreamliner is made amid allegations of poor quality work. What else? Last month, the company posted its largest ever quarterly loss due to the spiraling costs of resolving issues with the MAX, warning it may have to halt production of the grounded jet altogether if regulators around the world did not give clearance for it to fly again soon. Boeing's earnings per share growth has averaged about 45% over the past 3 years. In Q2, Boeing reported a loss of $5.82 a share, but analysts told by Zacks came up with earnings of $2.92 a share, down 12% from a year ago after backing out the 737 MAX charges. Earlier this year, Boeing said they expect the 737 MAX to return to service in Q4, and it'll book an after-tax charge of $4.9 billion or $8.74 a share. In addition, Boeing delivered 38% fewer planes in the first 7 months of 2019 than the same period a year earlier, as the grounding and doubts around the future of its best-selling 737 MAX jet hurts their operations. Deliveries totaled 258 aircraft in the 7 months through July, compared to 417 last year, and trailing far behind the 458 aircraft handed over in the same period by European rival Airbus. The numbers put Boeing on course to lose the crown of world's biggest plane maker, which it has held uninterrupted for 7 years. Okay, so what about good news? Boeing stunned at the Paris Air Show with a massive 200 plane letter of intent from the International Airlines Group, parent of British Airways. The deal, which includes 737 MAX jets, is worth $24 billion at list prices. Ethiopian Airlines CEO, whose carrier lost a Boeing 737 MAX in a crash, told Bloomberg during the air show that he has more confidence in Boeing as the aerospace giant works to fix issues with the plane's automatic flight control system. What else? Let's dig in a little deeper and take a look at their website, their recent earnings report, and a chart. Let's check it out. Okay guys, so the first thing that I always do when I'm researching a stock is I will go just to Google and I will
type in the name of the company, not like Boeing stock, just Boeing, and see what's going on sentiment-wise, see what kind of news is going on. And obviously, there's been a ton of news on Boeing for a while now, but especially recently, it seems. So just by doing a quick Google search, the first two articles that came up, the first one, which was just posted last night, August 17th at 9:40 p.m., it says, airlines already selling seats on Boeing's still grounded 737 MAX planes. This article is basically saying that there's companies out there like United Airlines and others that are booking flights for the holidays with the assumption that the 737 MAX is going to be approved and back in the air. Now, if that doesn't happen, there's going to be a lot of upset customers and a lot of turmoil. They already, Southwest and others have already, basically hinted that they're going to be suing Boeing. So Boeing has a lot of problems on their hands. They've already had a ton of write-offs from this, but it might even get worse. You look at the second article is from the Wall Street Journal, and 4-second catastrophe, how Boeing doomed the 737 MAX. And I'm not a member, but you can see that's not a very positive article, and a lot of big investors especially read something like the Wall Street Journal, the New York Post. So sentiment is really bad, so keep that in mind. That's the first place I'm going to start when I'm researching any stock. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the company website. So I've already got all these pulled up, but I wanted to kind of walk through this because when you think of Boeing, you think of airplanes. Most people do, and that's what they're most known for, and that's where most of their revenues come from. But they actually do quite a bit, quite a few other things. They're pretty diversified. You look at the commercial side, of course, here's all the different planes from the 737 MAX that we're talking about today to the 777X that we mentioned earlier that's now on hold because of the 737 MAX. But this is really their cash cow, what they're known for. But you look at the defense. So they build the Apache helicopter, they build the Osprey, they build ICBM laser beams. I mean, they've got all kinds of stuff, missile defense systems, on and on and on, different launchers. Air Force One that the President of the United States, travels on. Boeing makes that, right? So they do a lot. And space, they have all kinds of stuff from the Phantom Express. The International Space Station is a Boeing. The Space Launch System, they've got a plan for a path to Moon and Mars. For services, they do commercial and government services. They also have things like Boeing Analytics, and they do, this is whole, the innovation. But I like to really dig into a website. This video, obviously I can't make this video nearly as long as the time I'd spend, but I would probably spend a good hour just looking at the website, taking a look at, their history, who their key executives are, all those different things. The history, one thing that I actually didn't know until I started researching is that they were founded in 1916. They've been around for over 100 years, and they had their 100-year anniversary in 2016. So this company's been around a long time. They have a global presence, a global focus. They're very international. You can come in here and read about their principles, our company, etc. So let's just dig into this for 1 second. Here's some general information, executive biographies. You can dig into each executive. Here's the CEO, Dennis Muilenburg, on and on and on. There's, you can spend a lot of time digging into a company, but I like to just get a good feel for what's going on, kind of get an idea of where the company's going, and that's where I kind of start. After I do that, typically, here's a cool video series. I didn't even look at this. But after that, I generally will go and I'll dig into their financials, and I will dig into, so I'll start with something I was going to try to find here. There's a whole bunch of videos on here, but the next thing I'm going to go into is their financial reports. And I typically will listen to the earnings release, the webcast. There's usually a presentation that goes along with the webcast, and then there's a quarterly report and a transcript. I think all publicly traded companies, if you go to the main website, if you go down, there's usually going to be an investor link. And if you click on that investor link, it'll take you and dig you into these quarterly reports. So what I want to do right now is I want to dig into the Q2 presentation. I'm not going to obviously go on the webcast because that's going to be an hour long with all the Q&A. But usually there's a supplemental, PDF or handout like this one that's going to give you some really good information, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time to get a good sense of what's going on. So, here's the key executives. Dennis Molenberg is the CEO, Greg Smith is the Chief Financial Officer, and this is going to give you a summary of the second quarter. So, obviously, they're going to continue to engage global regulators and customers on the 737 MAX safe return to service. That's their number one focus. So that's the first thing they mentioned on their earnings report. Talk, about this after-tax charge that we mentioned earlier, the recognized revenue, etc. But this is, delivered 90 commercial airplanes. I mean, that's good. Won key defense and space awards, completed key milestones, captured new opportunities. So in the business environment, I'm not going to read through all these, but there's growth opportunities here over a 10-year period for $3.1 trillion services market. It says fundamentals remain strong, business environment supportive of growth. Here's the 737 MAX. I have a whole slide on that. It's going to give you the second quarter results. It's going to talk about the $4.9 billion after-tax charge. They definitely, this is a big deal. I mean, look, here it is, a $5.82 core earnings loss per share. Revenue in billions, you can see 24.3. This is 2018 Q2, and then 1 year later in 2019 Q2. And of course, it's driven by the 737 MAX impacts, partially offset by higher defense and services volume. So that's good. Defense and services, that means it's an uptrend. The 737 MAX. And if it wasn't for the 737 MAX, this company would, it's just rolling. They've got, back orders for years, healthy backlog of $390 billion. There's the Parashow highlights where they had 730 or 200 of the 737 MAX letter of intent from IAG. The 77X progressing. This has actually changed since the earnings report because just recently they came out and said that they are putting that on hold. But, revenues and operating margin, I mean, of course, that's going to be from 12.8% to a negative 104.7%. Ouch. If this was any other company, I swear this would not be trading at $330 a share where it's at. I mean, it's down 25% from its highs of $450 a share, but I am just amazed that that it's really held in the way it has. I thought this was interesting. The defense, space, and security, 6.1 billion, and then a year later, 6.6 billion. That's pretty good growth. And then the impressive part is 6.2% on the margin to 14.7. So this is really profitable. And they have orders valued at 4 billion, backlog of 64 billion. Obviously, it doesn't even come close to the amount of commercial airplanes, but it is a growing segment. It's something that you want to be aware of as an investor. Same with global services. You can see the growth trend. So these are really short amount of time. You can take a look at these and kind of read through it and get a really good sense of what's going on with the cash and debt balances. Now, the dividend I feel is still safe as long as nothing crazy happens. They as long as they get the 737 MAX issue figured out as soon as possible. Hopefully they will be back. By the end of this year they'll be back in operation and safe. That's the most important thing, of course. The next thing I like to do after digging into this is I like to use dividend.com, and you can just type in BA for the ticker. The dividend yield is 2.49%, which is good. An annualized payout of $8.22 a share, and the payout ratio is 56.3%. So what is the payout ratio? It's used to examine if a company's earnings can support the current dividend payment amount. I also like to have under 50% if I can on the payout ratio on the dividend, because that usually allows more growth because it allows more money for research and development. They also have dividend growth of 7 years. So this is a company I still like. I think it's maybe still a little bit too expensive based on the sentiment and news, but obviously it's kind of a moat. I mean, there's two companies that really make commercial airplanes. It's Airbus and Boeing. And Boeing is a great company once they figure this out. They've made some mistakes that put them in a bad situation. Unfortunately, it's cost people's lives. And I mean, the company and the stock, rightfully deserves to be punished for it. I mean, They really, if it was any other company, they would not get the slack that Boeing has. It's just, it's crazy. It really is. But here's a chart. I promised to look at a chart. This is a 1-year chart, and you can see this was around Christmas time, 12/24. We were way down here, 294 a share. I was buying under 300, and if it gets under 300 again, I say it's a screaming buy it, unless something crazy changes. But if it were to somehow drop below 300 a share, I'm buying a lot more. I'm still buying at this range in the 320s, but I'm kind of nibbling. So generally, I'd say dollar cost average. So if you want to buy $10,000 worth, and that's your total position, buy $2,000 at a time or $2,500 at a time. Buy 4 or 5 different buckets and dollar cost average to make sure you get a good cost basis on your investment. But it's a good company historically. It's had some issues. It's made some mistakes. The stock's been punished for it. It's down 25%. If you look at the all-time high, the 52-week high, it was $446, and we're off 26% off of that 52-week high. The 52-week low I mentioned earlier is 292, and we're trading at 331. It ran up Friday from 326, 331. I can't believe that it's not lower than this. Like I said, any other company would be trading lower. But anyway, do your homework on this one. Be careful. If you're going to buy it, dollar cost average. If you don't want to invest in the company because you feel like they should, be punished for, the mistakes they've made, that's rightfully so too. I mean, some people would say, I'm not investing in that company because I don't believe in what they did, and that's everybody's decision, and I wouldn't hold that against you. Some people don't like to invest in, tobacco stocks or alcohol stocks, same kind of thing. But I try to eliminate the emotion of it and just talk about the facts, and then each person, make his or her own decision based on the facts. So hopefully this video helped you. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you back for some more videos. I plan on making 1 to 2 videos a week for as long as I can, as long as people are supporting it. So appreciate your time. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.